Hello, welcome to Cheapest MTG for a standard deck tech. Today we have a deck tech that's ready to play now, and with the forthcoming release of Eldritch Moon. It's worth noting that this deck is currently standard playable. It features no new cards yet. The Eldritch Moon will bring some new toys, some that will definitely be worth adding to the deck. Some that will be worth experimenting with, but we'll get onto them later in the video. For now, I give you the deck tech for green Eldrazi. Start with the main cards in the deck. Play sets of Reality Smasher and Thought Knot Seer, two very strong cards, and the aim of the deck is to get them out relatively quickly. Which brings on to our next bunch of cards. We're playing play sets of Rune in Their Wake and From Beyond. For me, these are two powerful cards that came out of Battle for Zendikar and Oath of Gatewatch. So Rune in the Wake is ramp. It's cheaper ramp than, say, Nissa's Pilgrimage. It's very specific, saying you need a waste and a source of green mana, but when it works, it gets you up to a turn 3 Thought Knot Seer or a turn 4 Reality Smasher. So ahead of curve, that's really quite nice. From Beyond isn't necessarily ramp in the main deck. It gives you a constant source of Eldrazi Scions. Again, that's nice. It means if you do miss land drops, that you won't actually lose out on mana because you'll still have the Scions being produced. And the second ability on From Beyond is very relevant. The tutor effect. Tutor effects are always strong, but it can fetch up pretty much any creature in your deck. You're probably going to fetch something like Reality Smasher with this most of the time. And it can be a good way to close out games. We're also playing Hedron Archive as a 2-of. Again, it's not really ramping the main board because it's 4 mana, but it's a source of card draw, which this deck doesn't otherwise have, and it does have some applications as a ramp spell post board. Whilst the deck does focus on ramp and getting out medium-sized creatures fairly early, we do have other ways of winning. We are playing some good value creatures, play sets of Eldrazi Mimic and Matter Reshaper. Mimic works great with Reality Smasher and Thought Knot Seer for that matter. Matter Reshaper is just good value. When it dies, you at least draw a card. And we're also playing 3 Catacomb Sifters. Only 3 because of the mana requirements. We want to play enough basic lands so that we can have a waste on turn 2 along with a green producing mana. So being able to play Catacomb Sifter on curve isn't necessarily the easiest. So that's why it's a 3-of. But yeah, it's a good value creature. It's 1 turn ramp, so you can still get out your Reality Smasher on turn 4 if you play a Sifter on turn 3. And the Scries can come in useful for a deck which otherwise has very little in the way of card draw. We're also playing 4 Spatial Contortion. It works as both a removal spell for creatures with toughness of 3 or less, and a pump spell. You can use it to pump the Reality Smasher, so you have an 8-powered Trampler, which is quite nice. We play 2 Hedron Crawler. They're like a backup ramp creature. We prefer to be playing Rune in Their Wake on turn 2, but if we don't have it in hand and we have a Hedron Crawler, we're still likely to be able to play Thought Knot Seer on turn 3 and Reality Smasher on turn 4, presuming the Hedron Crawler survives, of course. And we're playing 1 Warping Whale. Warping Whale is a very versatile card. Its top ability, you can take out a few creatures, most notably cards like Jace. Second ability, there's a few sorceries in the format like Languish that are very good to counter, and I think its most used ability is usually the third. It's 1 turn ramp with an Eldrazi Scion, so again, if you don't have another ramp spell in your opening hand, you can still cash in on Warping Whale to get a turn 3 Thought Knot Seer or a turn 4 Reality Smasher. We'll start with the easy lands. All the cards in the main deck are either colourless or devoid, so we play 4 Corrupted Crossroads, 4 Llanowar Wastes, which in this deck is a tri-land, and we play 4 Evolving Wilds because we're playing 3 lots of basics. Talking of basics, we play 7 Wastes. With Rune in Their Wake, it's important to have a Wastes on the battlefield by turn 2, so 7 in testing seems to be the number, given we also have 4 Evolving Wilds. We play 2 Forests because we want to have a good number of green sources so we can cast Rune in Their Wake on turn 2. And we have 1 Swamp. Main deck we only have the Catacomb Sifter, and otherwise we have the Llanowar Wastes and the Corrupted Crossroads. But 1 Swamp means we can fetch it with Evolving Wilds. We're also playing 2 value lands. The choice of these is largely player dependent. I've opted for 1 Westbale Abbey and 1 Mirrorpool. Westbale Abbey works nice with the amount of Eldrazi Scions you can get going, particularly from Beyond. And Ormondal is a way to close out games that can be in a sort of a tricky position. I only want 1 though because I like to have room for the Mirrorpool. Mirrorpool is great with Reality Smasher. You can copy a Reality Smasher, so you can have like a 5th Reality Smasher, which is nice. We note we do only have room for 2 value lands in the deck because of the high number of basics we need to play, so we get a good amount of wastes. Onto the sideboard. The presence of From Beyond in the main deck means we can play some one-off creatures. In this we go for 1 Ulamog and 1 Kozilek. 2 of the Eldrazi Titans, very strong cards. They come in slightly different games. Kozilek's good in controlling games where the ability to restock your hand and discard is very nice. Works well with From Beyond. You can tutor up a card into your hand with the right mana cost and then discard it to counter a spell. Ulamog comes in more against probably ramp mirrors. You can bring Ulamog in games that are going to go long as well. Worldbreaker is a 2/0 in the sideboard. Worldbreaker is just a very strong card. It's got a home in red-green ramp, and I think you'd be foolish not to include it in a deck that is green and devoid. It's probably a bit too slow for the main deck. We're trying to be a little bit quicker, but you can sideboard it in games that are going to go longer. We also run 4 Transgress the Mind in the sideboard. Transgress is a very strong card. It can hit a lot of targets in the current standard, from Collected Company to cards like Avacyn. It's good against Ramp, Languish. It's just got a load of targets. It's thankfully devoid, so we can cast it with cards like Corrupted Crossroads. So it's very strong. It's 4/0. I also run 3 Titans Presence. We do have some removal in the main deck in Spatial Contortion, but Titan's Presence is just a bit stronger. It exiles rather than kills, so it gets anything indestructible. It does require you have an Eldrazi in your hand, which is why it's a sideboard card. You can cast Titan's Presence, revealing Ulamog or Kozilek, and their cards you're much more likely to hold in your hand for a while than, say, Smasher. Because while Smasher has a high power, you're not going to hold one in your hand for very long. We also run 3 Flame Tendrils. It is the only devoid sweeper. I did toy with the idea of Languish, but getting double black for Languish when we only run 1 Swamp is difficult, and I was loath to run a second Swamp. So Flame Tendrils is the best we can do. It's fine as a turn 3 play. It can mop up a lot of the white weenie creatures, so it's fine. It does lose value against white weenie and against green-white tokens, so maybe it doesn't want to be a 3/0. Maybe you want to have more Titan's Presence or even something like Complete Disregard. As with all sideboards, it's certainly something that you want to adapt to your meta. And we also run another copy of Warping Whale in the sideboard. We talked about how versatile this card is for the main deck, and I like to have access to another one. If they are playing a lot of sorceries, for example, it's a 2-mana counter spell. That's fine. 2-mana counter spell with versatility. That's great. So, what will Eldritch Moon bring for this deck? Obviously, there's Eldrazi and Eldritch Moon, the Emerge mechanic, and there's a few good Emerge cards. The 2 I'd be most interested in are Distended Mindbender, which is effectively a Thought-Knot Seer on steroids, and Elder Deep Fiend, which is a very good card. It is blue, so it's not on colour, but certainly a card worth splashing for. But Emerge is an interesting mechanic, and it works very well in particular with 1 card we already have in our deck in Matter Reshaper. Because sacking a creature is not always a great thing, but Matter Reshaper effectively replaces itself. So basically you can sack Matter Reshaper and it allows you to play a 8-drop on turn 4, which is some pretty solid ramp. And the effect, say, of Distended Mindbender is quite strong to take 2 cards out of your opponent's hand. There is of course one big, one bad, one ugly Eldrazi we've not talked about yet, and that's Emrakul. Yeah, Emrakul the Promised End is a very sweet card. I would expect this deck would reliably be able to cast Emrakul for about 8 mana. 8 mana for a 13/13 flying trample with some protection that gives you an extra turn. That's a great deal. So there's certainly 3 of the cards I've got an eye on for trying. That's the deck tech. I hope you've enjoyed watching. If you have, like the video, leave some comments, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter. I hope you enjoy playing the deck.